Fellas, hello, welcome back. Today we're gonna cover the last Freyna build, the glass cannon. This build is very fun to use in certain settings, so let me show you. Let me show you how fun it is to kill these dudes. And once I show the build, I also have something to say, so don't go away just yet. Because I want to tell you where you have to use this build and where it's taboo to use it. And this is just for my new beginner players that have no idea if this build is good or not. Because it's, I would say this, 30% of the content really good, 70% of the content absolute garbage. Yeah, I'm showing it how to use the glass cannon build and where to use it, and I will explain why you should never really focus on glass cannon builds to begin with, except in this particular setting right here. Okay, so you get yourself like a 4 or 5 seconds pyromania kill and you go like, oh my god, this is really cool, I want to get that build. It hits like a truck. Blue beetle, I only have like 50 of them. However, you see, oh, you have a pyromaniac 5 seconds kill. Let me show you the build first, and then don't go away just yet. I'm gonna explain to you where to use the build. Okay, so let's get through it really quickly. We don't want to make this video too long. This is a pretty easy setup. The bulk of the damage comes from 2 mods, which are maximized skill and maximized power. The skill power modifier 96% and the skill power, raw skill power 87%. Very good. Don't worry about the skill cooldown. You'll be using the baptism ability just once, and Freyna is going to destroy these 4 bosses that I'm gonna mention and I'm gonna explain to you in a second. Then you want to use the other 2 luck and strike mods that have been added recently, tech amplification and toxic amplification. These ones reduce your skill critical hit rate and damage, but Freyna doesn't do crits, so you don't bother with it. Unless you do a build with Luna in mind. Moving on, this focuses only on juicing the most amount of power. So how do you get more power? Spear and shield is one that you use to get the extra 8%, and Venom Syncytium, yeah, I think so, it's going to give you another 10%, so effectively you're adding 18% extra skill power. And then you're going to use Overwhelming Shield. This is going to come in handy when it comes to the Venom Injection mod. If you don't have Venom Injection, don't worry about the Overwhelming Shield. But if you have Venom Injection and you have Overwhelming Shield, your Toxic Sense, which is your second ability, is going to give you 66% power modifier as soon as you activate the skill, because this one works based on HP consumed and you have 1 HP, so it's considering everything consumed. So the cool thing is you get 66% extra power modifier, but you also get a 25% debuff on hitting Colossi on toxin resistances, which effectively means your toxin damage, it's increased by 25%. Baptism, it's a toxic damage, so that's mucho bueno. Okay, and then you have Dangerous Ambush. Now, if you don't know how this works, in a boss setting fight, if the boss doesn't target you directly, you will have a 24.9 or 25% skill power damage. However, when you are alone, like I was at the Pyromaniac, this is not going to apply to you because you are the only target. But every time you put the enemy in a down state, it's considered immobilized, which is going to increase your skill power by 50%, and that is where your true damage comes in, because it's an increase by 50% in skill power, which effectively makes you hit very, very hard. Okay, this is pretty much the build. You don't need to put anything else in here if you have space or you want to. The reason why I don't do it, it's because I just put this together as a glass cannon build just to farm these mobs, these colossi. I consider them mobs, but whatever. Because I have a shield tank build here and I have a mob build here, which I think is more valuable to have a more balanced build. Don't commit to a glass cannon build specifically, but I'm going to talk a minute about that in a second. Reactor, very important. The reactor, you want obviously a toxic mechanics reactor with a mount that you can have whatever mount you want. Thunder Cage, Enduring Legacy, Fallen Hope, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a toxic mechanics reactor that has tech skill power boost ratio and additional skill attack when attacking Colossi. This is the best role for Colossi battles because it juices the most amount of power. When it comes to components, you want the Slayer set. Stats don't matter here. You just want the Slayer set for the 26% skill power and rounds per magazine, which is going to increase your ultimate weapons rounds. And the weapon you choose, for example, I have Enduring Legacy, you only focus on expanding the magazine as much as possible. The damage of the weapon doesn't really matter here, but the rounds per magazine are going to apply to your ultimate weapon when you switch over to Baptism. So these two are going to apply, the fire rate is going to apply, and the sharp precision shot mod is going to apply, which effectively is going to increase your fire rate by 40%, which is mucho bueno. Okay, make sure you don't get interrupted, but when you do the glass cannon build, you're not gonna get interrupted. The Colossi dies way before they can spawn mobs, as you've seen, and that's pretty much it. You don't focus on any of these. So as long as your weapon has these 4 mods, you are very good, solid. Nothing else matters. You don't really need anything else, and that's your glass cannon build. Okay. However, let me just quickly say something. It's been 7 minutes. Let me just 1 minute say something to you. This glass cannon build is going to be useful to you whenever you level up with Descendants or something, and you do plenty of dungeons, and you get a bunch of these patterns that you want to open for Catalyst or for other things. When you farm dungeons, you might get yourself plenty of these, dozens of these, like 10, 20, 30, 40. I had 60 yesterday. I farmed 50 of them and I got 3 catalysts. Okay, sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get less lucky. But when you have to farm many of these, you don't want to spend 5 minutes fighting the boss or 3 minutes. So the quicker you get through it, the better, right? You can farm more efficiently. And this is where the glass cannon build really shines on a Freyna, on a Lepic, on a Haley, but nothing more. Okay? You focus on juicing the most amount of power only in this setting. And the only bosses that you can do on Freyna efficiently are these 4. Swamp Walker, it's very hard to one-phase. And if you cannot one-phase it and goes into an immunity state, you will die way before you can get him out of it. So don't even bother. And everything other than these 4, the Obstructor and onwards, you can't even do it in a private setting, which means that effectively there's gonna be no nerf. So if you're a very beginner and you don't know, when you do these bosses privately, they're going to get debuffed to a 1-person capability. So the HP they have, the DPS they do, the resistances they have, everything is going to be lowered. This is why you can one-phase them. And this is the cool thing about it. You can do these ones privately and farm them very, very fast to get your catalyst or whatever patterns you want to open, right? But if you go with this build to the Obstructor, you're gonna die. The first hit, you're on the floor, okay? So don't go with glass cannon builds into public settings. You want to balance it out for survivability. You want to be able to stay alive first and do damage second. And that's pretty much it. I see many people coming with these builds for example, I'm farming Gluttony, I'm farming then Stalker, and I have to pick them up off the floor way too many times, and this doesn't help anyone. This doesn't help you because you can't do any damage, and it doesn't help me or anybody else that has to come and pick you up, because effectively I'm interrupting damage to come and pick you up. Okay, so it's not a very good setting, so don't use these glass cannon builds except for these 4. End of. That's it. That's the build. I'll see you in the next video. Okay? You take care.